Welcome to the WrestleTalk News. I'm Pete Quinnell. It's Halloween, so I've dressed up as the scariest thing I know, Ollie Davis. Something CM Punk. But I'm actually not talking about CM Punk today, because instead our top story concerns some potential backstage frustration over AEW's creative process. While MJF versus Kenny Omega on Collision this past week has garnered huge praise for being rad, some criticism was levied at it for being booked with not much notice and without much story playing out on TV beforehand. This appears to be emblematic of a larger problem in AEW right now, as Dave Meltzer has noted on Wrestling Observer Radio some issues backstage currently. If you follow AEW, you know that a lot of stuff is being decided at much later periods than previous. Guys are getting their information on what they're doing later, and decisions are being made later. There's times the day of the show, sometimes you don't even know what the plans are. It's almost at times like we used to talk about WWE, which is also very frustrating for talent. He went on to say that there's a lack of long-term directions right now, so while people are coming up with week-to-week ideas, there's an uncertainty as to when the ultimate goal of storylines is, if it's even been decided. AEW Backstage named Jerry Lynn then weighed in on X, defending Tony Khan and this later decision-making, saying, because wrestlers and God knows who else have and continue to leak info to the Sheets podcast, etc. So Tony tried to keep things confidential. You wouldn't want to know everything before you see a movie. Anyone who leaks info is doing damage to the product and the industry. There seems to be one potential AEW storyline and division that's suffering currently because of this more last-minute decision-making. That being the direction for AEW Tag Champs Ricky Starks and Big Bill. Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio mentioned that the potential plan for Full Gear was to do Starks and Bill versus the Young Bucks, but that hadn't been confirmed or made official yet. It was just an idea that was thrown out. Full Gear is 2 weeks away. The Bucks became the #1 contenders to the tag titles at WrestleDream on October 1st, but there hasn't been much follow-up to that since, with them instead defending their Ring of Honor 6-man titles. Perhaps that creative frustration might sway Drew McIntyre's decision when his WWE contract expires, as despite some rumors on X circulating that McIntyre had re-signed with the company, Fightful Select has noted that this is not the case. It wasn't confirmed whether or not Drew had been approached about re-signing, but as of right now, he reportedly hasn't re-signed. Furthermore, his contract reportedly actually expires before WrestleMania 40 next year. So even with Drew challenging for the World Heavyweight title this Saturday at Crown Jewel, it seems his longer-term future is uncertain right now. Someone else's future that's uncertain right now is Will Ospreay, as it seems he will be the hottest free agent in quite some time when his contract expires early next year. With potential moves to WWE, AEW, TNA, or re-signing with New Japan, anything could happen. Dave Meltzer mentioned on Wrestling Observer Radio one idea thrown around in WWE for Ospreay should he join them. One idea that was thrown at me was the idea of NXT Europe built around Will Ospreay. Ha! NXT Europe, remember that? Good times. I'm sure that'll definitely launch at some point. Also, putting Ospreay as the figurehead of NXT Europe would be as wasteful as, I don't know, having Walter in NXT UK for several years instead of on the main roster. Look, I know there was more at play than just WWE's intent for Walter at that time, but still, don't put Ospreay in NXT Europe, please. Just for me. Now, over to Luke.
Thank you for that excellent bit of news. We're going to do the Raw review in a moment, but first, it's time to hear about another potential Match of the Year candidate. So please welcome the head lecturer of wrestling at the University of Bedfordshire, Mark Markison.
Hello, Luke. You're welcome at my lectures anytime if you ever want to become a real wrestling fan. This week's Match of the Year comes from Rev Pro's British J Cup. Gabe Kidd challenging for the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship against Michael Oku. And let me tell you, what Oku lacks in fantasy booking expertise, he more than makes up for between the ropes. Kidd took control in the early stages, playing mind games by targeting Amira before brawling with Oku in the crowd. But the champ fought back, showcasing the athleticism that's made him one of the most exciting prospects in the Brit Rest scene. Kidd took back control, nearly getting the win after a Saito suplex and a brainbuster, but after the ref was momentarily taken out, Amira got her vengeance by hitting Kidd with a slap, which was just enough for Oku to sneak the win, just barely escaping with his title. Now, I've had a couple of weeks off and I've used that time to reflect and really refocus my rating system to make something more fair, a more fair assessment. So with that in mind, I have given this match 30 stars.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you. That'll be all. Nice to be fair.
Yeah, I'll see you again.
Oh, you will. You will.
Good luck with the lectures.
Oh, you can come along if you like.
Oh, I won't.
I don't think you'll keep up.
No, I won't be there, Mark. Actually, Mark, can I stop you for a second? Yeah, can I just stop you for 1 second? Yeah, no reason in particular. It's just well, it's Halloween, so yeah. If you could just stop there for a second, Mark. I just need to have a quick word. Quick word with you. There we go. Right. Ugh. Well, you know, it's Halloween, isn't it? So I've decided to dress like an absolute cunt. I'm Mark Markuson, and now it's time for my review of Monday Night Raw, aka the Tag Division Lives edition of Monday Night Raw. In about 5 minutes. I'm actually Luke Owen. The show opened with a Rhea Ripley promo, which was interrupted by Sami Zayn. It's Groundhog Day. Again, I cannot wait for Survivor Series for us to all move past this. He cut a fired up promo which set up a match between him and Damian Priest for the main event. Ricochet came down to even the odds, but also because he had a match with Dominic Mysterio next, which he lost when JD McDonough and Rhea Ripley caused distractions and interference. Ricochet acted like a spoilt child after the match and was later told by Adam Pearce that he could have an opportunity at Gunther's IC title. I'm a big fan of video promos. I think more wrestling companies should do them. They show, rather than tell your audience why wrestlers, tags, factions, etc. are cool. And they were used to great effect on this show because numerous talents got them, especially to promote the Women's Fatal 5-Way at Crown Jewel this weekend. In no order, we got video promos for DIY, Raquel Rodriguez, Nia Jax, Candice LeRae, Xia Li, Shayna Baszler, the Creed Brothers, Zoe Stark, Drew McIntyre, and Rhea Ripley. That's a total of 10 video promo packages covering 12 wrestlers. It also really helps the 3-hour format because there's always something different to watch. I mentioned the Creed Brothers in that list because they answered an Alpha Academy Open challenge on Twitter over the weekend, and according to Dave Meltzer, this was set to be the official call-up for the team to Monday Night Raw, and presumably Ivy Nile as well, because she came out with her guys. Chad Gable and Julius Creed did some wrestling, which was fantastic and far better than the rather stilted work between Otis and Brutus, who looked like they couldn't quite find their groove early doors. They got on the same page by the end and had a terrific little tag match, which saw the Creeds get the win over the Academy. Looks like Chad and Co are back to their losing ways for the time being, but this was a tremendous showcase for Julius and Brutus, and I hope that this is the start of a new era of tag wrestling on Monday Night Raw, which has been sorely missing since WrestleMania. Damian Priest teased cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase this weekend as the group again argued about who the real leader is, and then The Miz came out for a babyface turn. I've made my thoughts on The Miz clear over the last 6 years on this channel. I think he's good. I think he's a totally fine mid-card heel. It's just my personal opinion. He's a professional. He rarely gets hurt, which means he's reliable, and he's reliable in the ring. If you want a 3-star WWE TV match, you book The Miz. And on very rare occasions, he'll turn up the dial and you'll get a nice 4-star match out of him. It is hard to take him seriously, at least for me, because he's so goofy, and that is intentional. He's a goofy mid-card heel who makes jokes about his balls and the size of said balls. But because of that, I personally tend not to buy into serious Miz when he's trying to be serious, I'm a Grand Slam champion Miz, etc. Which is a nice dichotomy when he's face to face with Gunther, who is the total opposite. He's also reliable, but he's reliable to give you 4.5-star matches in his sleep, and he very often turns up that dial to give you all-time classics. He's never goofy. He is always serious. You always take him, his promos, and his in-ring work seriously. He's made the IC title feel like something special and important. He is, for me, a much bigger, better, and more credible champ than our current World Heavyweight Champion. And he pointed all of this out to The Miz, who tried to fire back with serious Miz, but Imperium beat him up and sent him packing. Miz later complained to Adam Pearce backstage, and Pearce booked him in a match with Bronson Reed for a shot at Gunther next week, and later Ivar and Ricochet were added to that to make it a fatal 4-way. Babyface Miz has never ever worked in the past. We all remember that Ric Flair run, don't we? But let's see how this one goes under Trips' creative. At the very least, he'll be in the ring with Gunther, so it will at the very least be a good match. DIY beat Imperium in a fun little tag, and Shinsuke Nakamura cut a promo asking for his next challenger to show himself. CM Punk WWE return confirmed. Candice LeRae, or Candice Michelle as Michael Cole called her, had her match with Xia Li stopped by the ref when Lee knocked her out, playing off a real concussion that Xia Li gave Mercedes Martinez back in NXT. She later wanted her match with Becky Lynch, but on her own time. Mate, she's lost the NXT Women's Champion. You missed your opportunity. The Drew McIntyre promo was fantastic, and so much better than the one by Seth Rollins, who was attacked by JD McDonough. Seth beat him with the stomp and challenged Priest to cash in. Michael Cole said that Seth Rollins was struggling to keep up with this breakneck pace that he's keeping up as champion. This was his first match on Raw since August and his first singles TV match since July. That is hardly a breakneck pace. Chelsea Green shockingly picked up a win when she dressed as Bret Hart to beat Natalya, who I think was dressed as the Bunny from AEW, in a trick or street fight that was your usual Halloween plunder fun. And the main event of Priest vs. Zayn went to a double DQ when the Judgment Day ran in and Jey Uso ran in. It's Groundhog Day again. Cody ran down to even the odds again and gave McDonough the crossroads on the table. He got a promo on Priest, and that was the show, and it was a really fun time. Good wrestling, especially in the tag division, and they did a good job hyping up several wrestlers with video packages. I'm over the Judgment Day stuff, but this week's Raw is still a solid 3 out of 5. Tomorrow is November, and if you want to know about all the biggest movies released next month, check out myself and Mark Markson lookalike Dan Layton on the latest episode of What's On at Cineworld Cinemas. I also eat nachos quite loudly at Dan, so watch it for that at the very least. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, I need to get out of this costume. It's making me feel gross. I feel like I want to praise Michael Oku matches.